Let me first thank Fiki and Nandakumar for giving me this opportunity to talk about the UN Paris Accord and how we could benefit out of it. As a matter of fact, when the accord was signed in 2015, the interactions with the industries had started at that time itself, but we are really delayed in talking about it as of today. Let me just go through quickly on what we are going to talk about, what I'm going to discuss with you today. And this includes what are the important points in Paris Accord and what are these nationally determined contributions or NDCs as they are called, and what is India's stand in it. And let us zoom down also to Tamil Nadu's state action as far as the climate change is concerned, and how does it hurt the industries, and how the supply chains are affected, because there are many companies which are part of the supply chain of global organizations right here sitting in India, in Coimbatore, I should say. And then we will also discuss more about energy efficiency and why it makes commercial sense. Okay, on to the discussion. So it's the Conference of Parties, COP1, which started the whole reaction in Berlin in 1995. And COP21, that is the 21st conference that happened in 2015. And it was a landmark in Paris. It was a landmark event in the history of the world, coming together to give some solid results to all the concerned parties, particularly in the case of energy optimization and what is happening to the climate change and climate change control. So now we are on the threshold of COP26, which is going to happen in Glasgow, expected to be a physical event right across, in the month of December. We're just away by a month or so from the discussion. I think it's going to happen in October, just a month before they had a youth meeting and a precursor to COP26 in Italy. So now, what are the major changes that happened in Paris was that till then, there was always a kind of a denial mode as far as the climate change and impact of the industry in the climate change. By COP21, the denial had turned into not just acceptance, but also it turned into action. So people decided or discussed how to get into or what kind of actions are required and how to control the climate change that's really happening today. So it was not just the acceptance. They also worked out certain standard procedures to control the climate change and to create a net zero world. So this was the primary thing that was different from the Paris Accord and that was happening in the earlier discussions on climate change and control, because the first one started in 1995. So now, by 2017, you find almost 125 countries have signed S to the Paris Accord. And one of the major criteria of the Paris Accord was that they decided on what is going to be the limiting factor on the temperature, 1.5 degrees increase over pre-industrial levels, to keep it less than this. Okay, though of course the current scenario is that we have about 1.1 degree Celsius above the pre-industrial level. That is what was the what is the ruling, what is currently the situation, and we would like to keep it less than 1.5. And we bring a climate neutrality, create sinks, carbon sinks. Primarily what that means is to create more forest area for deforestations to be slowed down and create maybe social forestry and things like that. Reservoirs for carbon reservoirs, as they call it, to primarily store carbon rather than just put it into the air. They finance the carbon projects, carbon removal projects, if there could be any. And for this purpose, organize funds and then provide the necessary technology and also do a knowledge sharing. So this was what were expected, formed a major part of the Paris Accord. In addition to that, most of the signatories had to come out with what are called as nationally determined contributions, or intended nationally determined contributions. Primary purpose was to make them give a commitment as to what they are going to achieve in the next few years to come, along with a clear deadline for such an achievement. So companies or businesses were also brought into the discussion and signed off on a targeted reduction in carbon and GHG emissions, which was the first thing to happen in such climate change contracts, agreements. So, and the Paris Accord also created the Green Climate Fund. The targeted fund was USD 10 billion. Some of the projects in India also received funding from GCF. And as I was already telling you, 1.1 degrees is the current temperature above pre-industrial levels, and is expected to increase to 1.5 degrees by 2040 and to 2 degrees by end of this century. This is in case we do not take up a clear controlling measure. Now, if we should take up a controlling measure, then possibly we should try and limit it to less than 1.5 degrees. Of course, 2 degrees we wouldn't like to reach. This is what is the target. But, well, the current estimates say that we might really, we may not be able to stop the 1.5 degrees, but we should be able to limit it less than 2 degrees in days to come. Now, from the world scenario, let us zoom down to India and what are its nationally determined contributions target for 2030. In India, our targets are, we are supposed to reduce our emissions to 33 to 35% over 2005 levels. We have not brought the pre-industrial levels to consideration, but instead we are looking at 30 to 35% reduction over 2005 levels in case of carbon emissions. And 40% of the electricity generated will be from green sources. This is the promise that has been done, and India has also promised in Paris that we will add 2.5 to 3 billion tons of carbon sink by adding forest cover to that extent. So these are the essential things that India committed. Well, boil this down to the ground level and what are the achievements that we are promising. This means that there should be a renewable power generation target by 2030 of about 450 gigawatt. And the current level, that is by July 2021, is 96.96 gigawatt. Of course, we still have lots of time, about 9 years, and the current estimate is that we will cross the target, and they have said that we will reach somewhere around 543 gigawatt. That is what is the new commitment India is going to possibly give in the upcoming meeting in Glasgow. So, but of course, the fossil fuel subsidies where the fossil fuel was being encouraged have all been withdrawn. A coal cess was introduced earlier on, and then it was increased from 50 rupees to 400 rupees a ton, which was later subsumed in GST. Well, I'm not going to discuss about what happened to that money. Well, we are supposed to make use of it for environmental control. Today, as of today, I think they have nearly 1 lakh crore of Indian rupees in that fund, which could possibly be used for environmental management. Well, the coal power projects, if you look at it, the current capacity is 199 gigawatt. Expected addition, we are still expecting some additions in coal-based projects. That's about 47.86 gigawatt. A total of $1 trillion is expected to be spent in this sector within the country by 2030. Well, now, if we boil down further to look at, okay, this is, oh, sorry, okay. Let us boil this down to the Tamil Nadu state. So from India, if we zoom down to Tamil Nadu, what are the targets that Tamil Nadu as a state has kept? So Tamil Nadu has something called as the Tamil Nadu State Action Plan for climate control. Maybe I am adding or supplementing to what our TEDA GM said in his talk. And primarily, of course, we are supposed to add something like a 9 megawatt of solar power target, which will be the part of the solar energy mission. This is on the solar power side. There would, of course, we already have nearly 10 gigawatt in wind, and we should possibly cross over 20 to 21 or 22 megawatt, 22 gigawatt, sorry. 22 gigawatt should be our target by 2030 from whatever the solar target that has been laid down for us. But if you look at, again, our country's target, it is somewhere around 450 to 500 gigawatt, and this 20-30 gigawatts might be small number. And in Tamil Nadu, which is currently the leader in renewable energy sources across the country, among the states, might, if we just achieve this target, we might be losing our preeminent position. And unless we revise it to something like 40 or 50 megawatt and we try to achieve that, 50 gigawatt, we will not be able to retain our number one position amongst states on renewable energy. And net zero by 2050 is what is expected. I think we were talking about net zeros and near zero performances. Gross zero is, of course, we don't emit anything, any carbon related carbon emissions was brought to zero. The net zero would be you emit carbon, but you also take corrective steps so that there is a net, you balance it out, and a net of zero is produced. And this is the target for Tamil Nadu by 2050. And amongst the other areas, apart from energy, Tamil Nadu State Action Plan also talks of a sustainable agriculture, coastal energy management, coastal area management, which is required because there's lots of talk about many areas that could get affected by rising sea levels. So this is already marked out in the coastal area management. You can see this in the Tamil Nadu State Action Plan website. You will find areas like Chennai and others are marked out as red areas, which are in danger. Of course, we sitting in Coimbatore can be happy, we are safe. And it's a possibly green option. Well, let me not frighten you more than what the WhatsApp circulated messages have already done. So sustainable habitat and knowledge sharing are the primary action plans that Tamil Nadu state has planned for. Energy management is left to energy policy. And in addition, they've also laid down clear rules on how to interact with cities, from national government to state to industries, cities. These guidelines and targets have been laid down, and as a part of the original Paris Accord, the Marrakesh Partnership, as they call it. So this is one. And what really happened to the industries? How does this affect? Industries participated in the Paris meet for the first time. They also listened to it. They also presented the impact that Paris Accord is going to cause to the industries. This primarily happened because there's an overall public opinion that was created prior to the Paris Accord and even post Paris Accord also. This continued. And this happened to be that 100 companies, just about 100 companies, are responsible for 70% of the global carbon emission. So this is something that was not expected, and a study revealed that these companies, nearly these 100 companies, the first 25 to 30 companies alone contributed to 30% of the global emissions. And well, Coal India is the 7th in the list, as I've indicated, but for Coal India, none of them are present in the big list of 100 companies in the global emissions. But if you look at the view that has been really taken, what they have done is the producing company has been looked at as indirectly or directly responsible for all downstream applications and carbon emissions as well. The same way, companies are responsible for their entire supply chain performance. So what does this mean? This means that even if you are a coal company and if the coal is being employed in other places where it is being used and where carbon emission is high, then that is accounted into US. Therefore, that is one of the reasons why you will find that all these big companies are listed as top emitters. Well, but this primarily means that you might have to, if you are a part of a supply chain, or even if you're not one, then you have a responsibility to turn energy efficient as well as to turn green. So how do we, or what do we do, and where do we start? Let us set the home in order first. And that would mean that we will have to be a little more energy efficient every other day, reduce our carbon footprint, use low carbon and GHG emission. And if, particularly because there are lots of participants from the textile side, I thought I should talk about the fashion industry, where textile is a part of the supply chain. And fashion industry is the second largest polluting industry vertical. It has been identified, next only to the energy. And I picked this up from the UN report. So what this means is that there is a huge amount of scope for optimizing energy and saving the pollution in the reducing carbon footprint as far as fashion industry is concerned. And fashion industry includes spinning mills as well in their downstream. Sorry. So heavy industries also, like cement, steel, petrochemical, and chemical, are GHG intense industries, which have not been attracting much of an attention. But I think we'll have to time that we paid attention to these as well. And if every industry vertical has set a compliance target, the same way fashion industries have set compliance targets, FMCGs and the electronic industry, they have come together. They call something called as the Global Climate Pledge. And there are 201 signatories there. The fashion industry, if you look at it, they have come together and set a net zero compliance target for 2050. Most of the companies in the fashion industry have signed in for a target of 2040 to achieve a net zero compliance. And this is actually the Fashion for Global Climate Action. This is what is their organization, where they have come together and have said that they will go by the Paris Accord dictums, or whatever charter. Okay, the Fashion Industry Charter for Climate Action has nearly 130 signatories, and all the big names are in it, like H&M, Gap, Target, everyone is there. And WWF is a lead coordinating agency in the UN. And as as Anders was remarking, they have an arrangement, they have a working agreement with WWF to reduce the energy footprint in the supply chain as well. With H&M, they've done it, and they have now, they've also included IKEA, IKEA, IKEA in the process. So that is just about what is happening on the fashion industry side. If you are on the supply chain, then you better gear up to meet the net zero at the earliest, 2040 latest, to remain in the race. Because the supply chain, and whether to have someone which applies supply chain, is going to be decided based on how compliant we are going to be for the in the energy footprint case. Now, already the reaction has started. I think about a month or two back, you might have seen in the newspapers, Wellspun had announced that it has satisfied the net zero requirement to a great extent. So that, I think that is, they are near zero. That's what they have said. So this is possibly a first in the race kind of a thing. How quickly are you going to meet the requirements of the world? Efficient usage of energy is one part of it. In this net zero or near zero race, I think efficient use of energy is on one side. On the other side, how green is going to be the power that you make use of so that your carbon footprint is lessened. Of course, there are major energy using applications that are part of your own industry, like the compressed air that was told to us. There are other areas also where we spend most part of our energy. If you take a textile mill, we use almost 40% of our cost of textile mill goes into the electrical energy. So if I just thought this would be a relevant one for the textile industry people, just to compare how the electrical energy prices, the overall energy cost per kilogram, the specific consumption price, how does it compare with the industry in other areas. Primarily what I'm trying to do here is benchmarking. If you look at the Chinese, the energy cost per kilogram is working out to, energy cost works out about $0.23 per kilogram for China, whereas it is 0.30 for India, and we are the second highest, next only to Italy. So you can check out what are the reasons for such a cost per kilogram. One, of course, our energy consumption per kilogram is also on the higher side. And of course, our cost per unit is also substantially higher when compared to the Chinese, or if you look at even the USA or Brazil, our cost per unit is over or nearly double that of the price that they pay. And our kilowatt hour, our energy consumption, specific consumption, is also pretty, is marginally higher, but we can still say it has to be reduced. It has got a substantially large impact when you are having, when you're looking at the volume. So this is in both the cases, in ring as well as in open end. Yeah. So reducing price of electricity is one of the options. Reducing specific consumption is the other. So you should look at how to save money. You know, it's always said that saving a rupee is equal to earning two. You know, that's what my early days, my teacher in school used to tell me. You know, you save a rupee, it means you are going to save 1 rupee and spend it at some other place. So primarily it means in order to realize both, if you had not saved it, you should have earned 2 rupees to meet the same targets. So saving a rupee is equal to earning 2. So put your stress at the right place, save money. Then if you are a net zero or near zero, then there is absolutely no doubts your buyers would also be impressed. Many companies used to think that they are really tight, in the sense they used to think, okay, I am very energy efficient. I've approached and spoken to many people on energy efficiency, and invariably we assume that we are very efficient. Our efficiency in energy is pretty tight, and we do not have any flab. You know, we always think that with our health as well. You know, we think that we may not have any cholesterol. We are possibly maintaining our health well. Going out for a walk every day for 40 minutes. So I should be right. But still, we walk into our annual medical checkup. We still don't differ that, right? Just to check whether we are in the right way of maintaining our health or not. The same way, I think we should also look at whether the companies are, whether even if we are working there, and particularly when we are managing it, we should look at whether they are really tight. We should go through a third-party perspective, a third-party audit into the energy side, and that would help you to identify whether we are really having flab or not in our companies, and how to lose that, you know, so that our energy efficiency is much higher. And I've said working on carbon footprint and energy efficiency could save money on a daily basis for you. So that's just from me. Thanks for listening. And let me just go through a quick recap on whatever I've said. One, the recap is that 1 point, we have to keep our targets less than 1.5 degrees Celsius over the industrial thing. That was the target 2030 set by the Paris Accord. And to this, every country has given a nationally determined contributions in the COP, or the Conference of Parties. India's achievements so far are in line with the targets already set, and many industries have signed in for compliance targets, and every company has to look at compliance at all levels, including supply chains. Even if we are a part of a supply chain, we might have to turn compliant. We need to enhance our energy efficiency and lessen carbon footprint, not only to meet the targets set by the Paris Accord, but also because it makes sense. There is a commercial viability in our effort. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Over to Sudarshan.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Andakumar sir, your comments, please, sir.
Yeah, I have one question, Mr. Shantakumar. Is there any nodal agency or any task force set up in Tamil Nadu for implementing and monitoring this, the UN Paris Agreement?
Yes, in
Because
Tamil
it looks to be
Nadu,
very, very important, and the time is again, running out. Is there any task force or otherwise set up?
yes, there is a group formed, a part of, I think it's a Department of Environment and Forest. It's a part of that. It is called Tamil Nadu. Um, I think I remember telling you about it. If we go back, yeah, sorry. There is a Tamil Nadu State Action Plan
Okay.
for climate change. So this is primarily the action group, and it is a part of the environment and forest. So they are the nodal agency as far as Tamil Nadu is concerned. But as I already said, as far as the energy part of it is concerned, it goes under the energy policy, and they are not playing an important role in the energy side. Energy side, it's an energy policy. So I think it should come under the Department of Energy.
Sure. Thanks. I believe we should engage with NSA, PCC a little closely to kind of support or take their guidance. And in fact, this also gives equally the opportunities in terms of the whatever the green funds, as you were mentioning. I believe close to about $5 billion available as a green fund is an absolute available
$10
opportunity
billion.
for the various industries also. So.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
$10 billion is the targeted one. I think they've collected about nearly $7 to $8 billion already.
Sure.
And it's expected. Yes, some of the projects in India are also funded out of the Green Climate Fund, GCF, they call it. Yes.
So it's a really interesting presentation, Shantakumar.
Thank you.
In fact, it has given a lot of ideas about what is a mandated requirement, and it's good also to note that India is now in line with the whatever is the target set, and Tamil Nadu definitely is also definitely is a kind of state to fall in line and will be the first to kind of implement it. So definitely we look forward for more interactions and then more solutions for industry partners and as well as to the every of the other sectors. Probably I think with the Tamil Nadu task force we'll try to engage more, and it's really a interesting information, though it's the last presentation. I believe it's more very important for the generations to come, and it is you're well covered with a lot of key points, whatever is it as the targets to be achieved with clear numbers what you are given to the team. And I could see the attendance of well over 100 people still at the end of the session. That shows the interest on the topics and as well as the interest on especially this that environmental concerns. So thank you very much for your interesting presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.